Good afternoon and welcome to War Thunder's website. This is Old Dead Man. Today we're discussing a new devblog. This vehicle has already been introduced on the dev server, however they put out a devblog on it today. The Scimitar F Mk is a late 1950s subsonic twin-engine naval jet strike fighter developed by the renowned British Supermarine aircraft manufacturer. While this is not going to be top tier, this is not going to be the meta vehicle, it certainly should be an interesting vehicle for its variety of loadout options and general maneuverability and excellent flight characteristics. It is subsonic, and it does not have an afterburner, which means you may suffer a little bit in heavy maneuvering fights for the lack of it. This will be waiting at Rank 6 of the British Aviation tree. In fact, I just noticed that War Thunder is still refusing to identify the new patch. And they're saying it's upcoming major update instead of saying the number of the update, which is unusual, or the name. So they seem to be holding that pretty close to the vest for now. The Scimitar F Mk has two Rolls-Royce Avon 202 turbojet engines generating 11,150 pound-feet of energy, or 5,057 kilogram of force thrust each. The Avon engines on the Scimitar allow the aircraft to reach a top speed of 630 to 640 knots, which about matches the specifications I'm seeing online. That'll be 1,170 kilometers per hour, or Mach 0.95 at sea level, with a climb rate of 95 to 105 meters per second. For a mid-range jet, that's pretty decent, actually. So this should be an interesting one for the British tree. A lot of fun. I do know, however, that it was the predecessor to what they're really looking forward to, and that is the Blackburn Buccaneer. Now, there's no indications that's coming, but with this model out there, who knows? Maybe it'll come someday soon. The Scimitar F1 definitely had some issues during its introduction to the British fleet. For one thing, the British fleet at the time had small aircraft carriers, and this is a large bird. And so they had a lot of difficulty putting it on the decks of an aircraft carrier. In fact, the Commander John Russell, the commanding officer of 803 Naval Air Squadron, made a perfect landing on the recommissioned HMS Victorious, and in full view of the press, one of the arrestor wires broke, and Russell's Scimitar fell into the sea. He had no means of ejecting through the canopy, and despite the best efforts of the crew and a helicopter that attempted to rescue him, his Scimitar sank, and Commander Russell perished. There are a bunch of other incidents that for the Scimitars, but one of the funnier ones is that it was delivered to the 700X at Royal Naval Air Station Ford in August of 1957, and the squadron carried out their evaluation task in an intensively noisy fashion until late May of 1958. For the residents of the small West Sussex village, the arrival of the hugely powerful Scimitar was an unwelcome shock after the relatively quiet attackers, Seahawks, and Gannets they had been used to prior to this point, and about which a near constant stream of complaints were already being received. 700X's intensive flight operations with the type won them few friends with the locals, but enabled a quick and relatively painless introduction of the Scimitar into frontline service. The locals ended up with peace and quiet as the air station closed later that year, but a prison was built on the location. Not sure they got the best part of that deal. At least I'd prefer to see Scimitars than prisoners. Another interesting incident was with Supermarine Scimitar XD-238, flown by pilot Lieutenant Commander Davies. This craft was delivered on June 20th, 1958, to the Royal Navy, to the 803rd Naval Air Squadron at RNAS Lossiemouth as 145V, and written off 2 years later on February 6th. It suffered a massive fuel loss during a sortie from HMS Victorious due to a fuel leak, and when it diverted to Lossiemouth, Morrisshire, I'm sorry about the pronunciations, but the pilot was forced to eject while on approach when both engines flamed out. The aircraft crashed onto a road near Lossiemouth Golf Course on the airfield boundary. Almost made it. And the pilot suffered only slight injuries when he ejected at 200 feet at low speed. It's an interesting aircraft. The Brits will probably like it, but mostly for ground RB, maybe even ground SB, rather than necessarily aggressively in air RB. We'll see where it falls out in the next patch, which I'm still assuming is going to be 1.99, but War Thunder's been doing weird things with their patch numbering these days. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.